Women in the California Gold Rush, which began in Northern California in 1848, initially included Spanish descendants or Californios who already lived in California, Native American women, and rapidly arriving immigrant women from all around the world. For some women, the gold rush opened up economic and career opportunities they did not have back home. Julia Shannon and Julia Randolph became well-known professional studio photographers, a new field that was relatively easy for women to enter, though it was still dominated by men. At first, the numbers of the immigrant women were scarce, but they contributed to their community nonetheless. Some of the first people in the mining field were wives and families who already lived in California. A few settler women and children and the few men who did not leave their family worked right alongside the men, but most men who arrived left their families at home. The number of women in California changed very quickly as the rich gold strikes and lack of women created strong pressures in the new gold rush communities to restore tax balance. As travel agreements improved and were made easier and more predictable, the number of women coming to California rapidly increased. Most women probably came by the way of Panama, as this was one of the fastest trips, 40 to 90 days, and one of the most reliable, although expensive in 1850, $400 to $600 person one way. Passage via Panama became much more predictable after the paddle-wheeled steamship. Lines were up and running by late 1849. In Ireland, the Great Famine was a period of mass starvation, disease, and immigration between 1845 and 1852 that drove many desperate women to the United States and on to California. Women of many different countries, statutes, classes, and races were involved in the California Gold Rush. The fact increasing population had very few women in it, and what women there were found myriads of opportunity. As word of the California Gold Rush spread, so did the word of opportunities for women to work in the women-poor goldfields and communities. You are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorrow. Women going to California to rejoin their families usually had their passages paid for by miners or businessmen who had decided to make California their new home. Most of the men had originally planned to get their gold, return their homes and families, and enjoy their new riches. Typically, women, euphemistically labeled as entertainers, had little or no money for passage, but as soon as they showed up in California, they were hired by various saloons, gambling halls, and dancing halls. The cost of a passage was typically paid for by the entertainer agreeing to work for the payees at least 3 to 6 months. These entertainers intentionally were the majority of the female population. Very few of these entertainers made the 5 to 6 month trip by wagon on the California Trail, or chose the 5 to 7 month all-sea journey around Cape Horn. In the cavern, in the canyon, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er, and his daughter Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorrow. A few women came to California with their husbands and children and often helped pan for gold or earn cash while the husband tries his luck panning for gold. Others came directly on their own to mine for gold. One Mexican woman was said to have brought several workers to the mining to pan for gold for her. Another made over $2,000 in 46 days of mining. One of the most popular ways for a woman to earn a living was to run a boarding house. The memoirist Mary Ballou was one example. Another was cooking or running a restaurant. California was about the only place that women could earn wages higher than men for equivalent work because women were scarce and the men would pay just to be in their company and have them do household tasks the men did not want or know how to do. One enterprising woman earned $18,000 from making baking pies. Washing clothes was another occupation women engaged in. Originally, most of the washerwomen were Native or Mexican women. When white women saw how lucrative the profession could be, they also joined in. A pound in San Francisco called Washerwoman's Bay became a popular spot for women doing laundry to congregate, and a meeting was held by laundry workers in 1850 to discuss fees being charged and organize into a society. By 1853, however, Chinese male immigrants had supplanted women in the laundry business. Some women and girls like Lola Montez and Lotta Crabtree found success in dancing and acting. Montez arrived in San Francisco after a career in Europe. Lotta Crabtree was born in New York on November 7, 1847, the daughter of the Gold Rush immigrants. Began her career in singing in the saloons for the miners. Then, after a couple of times in the saloons, she got showered by little gold nuggets, which then her parents moved to San Francisco, and her new salary was $5,000 a week, which for us is about $176,000, $290 today. But then she died at the age of 76 on September 25th in 1924. No single woman came as a part of a family group or as an entertainer. Many men did not find their fortune in the goldfields, and having a woman around to earn money with boarding, washing, cooking, sewing, and more could mean the difference between the family living well and not. A few women earned their own gold mining claims and came out west with the specific intention of panning for gold. As the easy-to-find placer gold became scarcer and mining became more complex, women typically moved out of the goldfields and into some other type of work. Most women had many marriage proposals and could get married almost as soon as they found someone they liked. For some women, the gold rush opened up an economic and career opportunities they did not have back at home. Julia Shannon and Julia Randolph became well-known professional studio photographers, a new field that was relatively easy for women to enter, though it was still dominated by men. Eleanor Dumont, or Madame Moustache, as she was sometimes known as, earned her living as a card shark, moving from town to town, and eventually opened up her own gambling parlor. Entrepreneur Mary Ellen Pleasant, who called herself a capitalist, used the vast wealth she accumulated to free slaves through an underground railroad. Other women worked as barbers, nurses, and school teachers, mole packs, and circus performers. Charlotte Parkhurst dressed as a man and drove a stagecoach. One woman managed a theater, another bowling alley. One woman writes a singing lady bullfighter. Oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost and gone forever, dreadful sorrow. In the cavern, in the canyon, excavating for a mine, lived a miner, 49er, and his daughter Clementine. Oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling Clementine, you are lost.